Awesome. I think we're live. And so sorry for the delay, folks. I think there was a small tech issue on our end. But hope you were able to chat with a few folks in the networking lounge. And I can already see a bunch of intros coming in. So thanks for that. And hope you had a lovely weekday evening, good day at office. And I'm sure the next 60 minutes will be really, really insightful for you all. Adi and me were just having a look at the deck as well. And Rajiv has a really interesting journey to share with you, as well as some interesting frameworks. So without further ado, getting started, I'll share a little bit about the community. Then I'll hand it over to Adi to share a little bit about today's session, as well as a very, very brief intro into Rajiv's profile. Then for the next 30 minutes, we'll listen to how Rajiv's journey has been, and also some interesting tips and tricks that he has for folks who are looking to break into product or have already started their product management journeys and want to go ahead. So different skill sets that are that might be important, as well as are noticed from the other side of the table. That's a very, very quick agenda. So getting started, lots of familiar faces that we can see here today. I think just about 150 people joining us. And for folks who are new, the product folks is a volunteer community of product managers, product enthusiasts, product marketing folks, product analysts. And in case you haven't followed us on our social media platforms already, that's where we're most active. A couple of initiatives that we have ongoing for the last couple of months, especially for folks looking to break in. One of them is called LearnPMwith.me, a curated set of resources. We'll share links in the chat section. You could check that out. Another one is an early stage APM program. It's called Insurjo.club. And the third one we've started is a teardown series. That is exactly a B-School case study competition. So do check that out. I know we've started a little late, so I won't go deeper into this. I don't want to hold you guys. I'll add some links to the chat section. You could check it out. I think someone asked for a link to join the community. I'll share that as well. But over to you to kick this off. And Rajiv, welcome again. Looking forward.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Suhas. On to the session for today, we have Rajiv Srivatsa with us, who will be talking about how to grow in your product manager and lots of other interesting stuff. He's currently a partner at Antler India, where they work with fast-growing early-stage startups. In his last stint, he co-founded Urban Ladder, which I'm sure needs no introduction, and all of you already know about it. Rajiv has had a very interesting trajectory where he started off as a software engineer, went on to become a product manager, then of course to build Urban Ladder, and now onto the other side of the table at Antler to help startups. I'm super excited to hear his tips on how one should think about their career, grow in it, and also his journey as a whole. Before I hand it over to Rajiv, just want to share that you don't need to record this session. We'll be recording it and we'll send it over to you. It'll also be up on our YouTube channel. So just enjoy the session. I've seen the deck, like Suhas said, and it's quite informative, lots to learn. So I'd urge you all to take lots of notes during the session and feel free to share your experience on Twitter, tag the product folks, tag Antler India. And a small giveaway from Antler's team. I would like to give the floor to Rajiv. Enjoy the session, everyone.
Awesome. No, thanks for the intro. Thanks for hosting me, Suhas and Aditya. And it's always, I think I love three sets of people. One is students. I always take an opportunity whenever I get the time to address students. One is founders, right? And more so now with Antler. And one is anyone who's building product or creating products, right? These are the three sets of people that I love talking anytime. So when you asked me to come on, for this session, I think it was a pretty easy decision that way. Thanks for hosting me. So, I maybe spend, just to make it a bit more interactive, evenings, maybe I'll quickly run over what I had 20 minutes. I think I'm making a deck after a really long time. So, because you guys requested me. So pardon me if, there's some mistakes here and there. But really, for me, it was about covering my journey and talking points more rather than making it too exhaustive. So I'll sort of maybe, cover that in this deck. And, really, before I come to sort of what is important as a product manager, I would say whatever I say, take it with a pinch of salt, because I think there is merit in being new. I've been sort of doing this for the last 20 years now. So what I did maybe 20 years back are absolutely not relevant now, and things have changed drastically. But I think the foundations and the core of it probably haven't. I think, when I started even in Yahoo 2008, I think it was the number of product managers in the community was probably 50 or 100, and today maybe there are the thousands. So take everything with a pinch of salt, but take the 2 cents that you want to take out of it. So quick, it feels almost like I think I took a line from Star Wars, but a long, long time ago in our very own galaxy. It was 27 years back. I started coding. I just loved seeing that output on right on the screen, and I think that's what probably was the aha moment in life for me. That with code you can actually create something and impress, and interest a lot of people. And I think somewhere that sort of carried over right from school to IIT. I actually wrote a very Indian version of Carmen Sandiego. Today, Carmen Sandiego is an animation on Netflix. But it was one of the first games that people who used the computer in the 90s would remember. It was a detective game. I wrote that code. Infosys again, I had the largest personal website inside Infosys, and everyone in Infosys Chennai at that time, there were 2,000 people, used to come to that website. So daily active users was 1,000, and I got such a kick out of it. It was not a joke. So I was like, wow, this is something. And I really, for me, as a programmer, I learned something there, which was to write use cases. A use case is such a simplistic tool. You say user A wants to do B so that they gain C. I think it's foundationally goes across anything that you create. And I remember doing a project for Boeing, one of the largest clients for Infosys at that time, where we had to read mainframe code and convert that to use cases. As a programmer, I was supposed to be coding, but they just didn't have enough analysts or this whole hog of people who read code or understand client requirements. So even coders like me became business analysts at some level. They used to call us programming analysts. And I actually had to interact with users, look at mainframe code, and really convert it into English, right? That was sort of my first brush with use cases. Pretty much in my second project, I remember 3Com or Greenpoint Mortgage, which doesn't even exist today. It's my third project. I was actually writing use cases as just a junior programmer. That gave me a lot of kick. And I also saw the power of, I would say, going right or wrong on requirements versus going right or wrong on code. It was much easier to catch going right or wrong on code, but it was absolutely impossible, or the impact of something going wrong on a requirement was far more impactful, right? And that was what really prompted me. And doing an MBA at some point in time was always there. Went to IIM Bangalore right after Infosys. 2000 to 2002 was Infosys. 2002 to 2004 for IIM Bangalore. I stopped coding in IIMB. I coded the intranet, which probably even in IIM Bangalore is there even today. I don't know if it's used as much. It was called Spidey. That was my first brush after Infosys to really create a product from scratch. My daily active user base was 200, not 2,000. But really, it was far more engaging. And I did a bunch of other applications, everything from a student database. This was the time when Facebook, 2003 was exactly the same time Facebook was created. I created an equivalent of Facebook inside IIMB. I never had the entrepreneurial ambition of the ecosystem like what Mark Zuckerberg had. So, just can say that, created something at the equivalent time, and actually created a bunch of softwares to also, integrate a lot of communication, right, between students inside campus. And that was for me a fun. So that was the next one that I did, and really got to understand what it took to, create impact to a community of 200. For me, it was, moving to Cognizant right after MBA. At that time, there was no product manager job, and I would have loved to have gotten an internet company product manager job, given just my heart was there. But there was just one or two companies, there was just one or two roles. No one recruited. That year was pretty bad, 2004. Decided to get back to enterprise. It had to be technology. I started writing requirements and doing business analysis for Cognizant. Figured, I think in the enterprise world, enterprise software were making a much bigger splash, the likes of SAP, Salesforce. And we did some really interesting work, and really learned 101 of understanding client requirements. And the second big part in, expressing from business requirements to engineering, right? Just writing use cases is one thing where you're yourself coding. But if you're going to be translating all this to other engineers, 50, 60 engineers who are graduating from colleges, it better be super crystal clear. And I did a manufacturing project for Mitsubishi, I remember. This was 2005. And did one more before I moved on to the business development and the client management track. But figured there is such a huge potential just doing, far more productized requirements, even in the enterprise world, right? And that was the time when there was no SaaS, and those were not even words at that time. 2004 to 2008 did that. Realized again the internet is where my heart was from my previous experiences. So sort of got a lucky opportunity to shift to Yahoo. I was in Switzerland at that time for a year, and I literally ran back. I got so depressed living in Switzerland. Switzerland is a great place to tour. It's one of the worst places. I know Suhas probably you're shuttling between Europe and India, but it was depressingly cold. And I said I am moving back to India. That's where my heart is. I literally used to play Swadesh songs to remind myself of India, and said, okay, I have to get back and build something. Thankfully, I got an opportunity with Yahoo, and really, Yahoo was the next one, which is where I moved to be a product manager. Moving from enterprise to product management was a very different experience. You're working with some client, getting their requirements, and then suddenly you're dealing with millions of users. How do you prioritize? How do you look at metrics? How do you look at a crazy number of dashboards? How do you do user experience design? And I was pretty lucky because Yahoo had some of the smartest engineers, smartest product folks, smartest designers to work with. And really, 2008 to 2012, I was also lucky to get a bunch of products. I did the first version of the ICC partnership. So imagine building Yahoo Cricket. You're watching cricket for a living and also building a cricket product. That's like fun of another level. And what I did, and we even got a superstar award from Yahoo CEO globally. That was a big win. And then I took on a new project, Yahoo Education, and I also did a bunch of stuff on Yahoo Mobile. And for me, Yahoo was sort of literally, Yahoo has been a great training ground for a lot of PMs, way before so many companies the last decade have come. Yahoo was literally the start of a lot of entrepreneurs and product managers, right? I remember a lot of new, names that moved on to Flipkart and became entrepreneurs. For me, the Yahoo experience exposed me to global, pool of talent of product people. It also exposed me out to very smart decision making. And the first time I was actually failing, right? And one of the single biggest things I would say in your experience as a product manager, before you actually fail big time as an entrepreneur, is try and fail. Okay, because I would say someone who's not failed will be a very bad entrepreneur, right? You will hit failures for the first time as an entrepreneur. You're gonna really get screwed, right? So Yahoo, I think we did a great work on Yahoo India Education. The first version, I did a Yahoo Celebrities product, which was an iPad experience. Learned a lot. Did a bunch of features which I think can be products even today. But I also failed a lot in terms of just getting market traction. And one of the big things I think with a bigger company, if you're doing a product role in a big company, is really, I would say, aligning people, right? Aligning business folks, aligning content folks, aligning advertising folks. And one of the big jobs as a product manager that you do, not just in a startup, but in a big company for sure, is alignment. And that's something that you have to evangelize. You have to make sure that you tell the story well. So that was a big part of what I did at Yahoo. I did quite well in cricket. I don't think I did a great job at education. But by then I had already decided that I was making too many more presentations than products. And I wanted to spend my time building products. And that always happens in a big company after a while. So 2011-12 is when, I teamed up with a batchmate of mine with whom I had done so many different things in campus. In IIM Bangalore, we used to be the first to throw our hands up in every extracurricular activity. So we decided to partner and build Urban Ladder. It was, so that was my next experience, in terms of Urban Ladder. And that was a very different experience, I would say, as a founder. I had absolutely no background in e-commerce, no background as an entrepreneur, no background in managing people, beyond 2 people. It was like literally throwing into the fire. And funnily, actually, it was for me, the logical career jump was to move to a startup. I was interviewing with startups. I still remember I interviewed with Binny and Singh from Flipkart, with Vaibhav, who became the Udaan founder. I still remember the interviews. I was talking to, Binny Bansal yesterday or day before, and I told him I still remember the interview he threw, at me in 2011. And I also interviewed, and I got a bunch of startup opportunities as a product, which would have been the logical step next. But I just said, okay, why do the logical step while let me skip one step and directly start my own thing? Otherwise, people would have maybe, from a senior product manager, director product would experiment. For me, it was always about creating, right? So I think a startup was a question of time, not a if, more a when. And really did that. Urban Ladder was phenomenal experience over 7 years, ups and downs. I used to do 3 things at Urban Ladder. One was technology and product. One was people. and one was marketing and brand, right? Which means I sucked at the other things like manufacturing, finance, and physical product and operations. Those were not my things. But really, these three things, I think we did a bunch of very interesting stuff. I think a simple heuristic that I learned there is say, okay, revenue is traffic into conversion into ticket size, right? I mean, it's a very simplistic formula, right? And traffic itself has 5-10 things. It could be organic traffic, it could be paid traffic, it could be any kind of traffic. Conversion for different stuff is different. You have conversion, and conversion is not just a factor of how well you do your website. It is what is the price of the product, how well is the merchandising happening. It is how well. So e-commerce has this funny heuristic that you can be the best product manager, building the greatest experiences, but if you do not get all the different parts right, you're going to not end up with a great conversion, right? Ticket size, of course, is not just the ticket size of the product, so product mix and the product portfolio. It is also how well are you able to cross-sell, upsell, and of course, very different for repeat traffic versus organic traffic. So this is obviously a very simplistic view to a very complicated set of factors. But literally everyone in e-commerce who's a product manager is trying to increase this. They work on maybe micro aspects of this. They work on specific aspects which are horizontal. But they're all of them together with everyone else, whether that's category teams, marketing teams, merchandising teams. They're just trying to increase this number, right? Of course, in media, which was my previous experience, you're trying to increase advertising money. Today, the digital media industry probably $3 billion out of the $10 billion. But at that time, it was all about traffic, right? You're trying to increase UUs. You're trying to increase, reduce churn, increase repeat. Today, obviously, there are far more industries. Simplistically, e-commerce works this way. Now, the trick there is, at a very product level, not to be measuring micro wins, because what happens is product teams get split across, conversion, awareness, and someone will come and say, hey, I increased 200% the traffic from listing to product page, and the product page to conversion person says my traffic or conversion dropped 50%. At the end of it, you're not changing anything as a company, right? So you'll have to make sure that product folks are aligned, and you're not, sort of incentivizing someone, disincentivizing someone else. So I think clarifying metrics at a foundational company level, at the same time making sure that you are moving the macro metric, and at the same having very easy ways to assess product managers who's I don't think we cracked the code. We had at peak around 12 product managers, 3-4 designers, an engineering team of maybe 50 people. I think we had 15 product managers. I think an engineering team of around 75 people or so at its peak. We used to do products across front end, back end. We even went into AR, and we are one of the, in India, we probably had the best experience for any VR product. And even today, it's probably ahead of its time. But 3 years back, we built the first VR experience, one of the first VR apps ever. For e-commerce, we provided an infinite store experience. Even on AR, we actually launched AR app in 2014. 2014 devices were, you need a marker, right? You actually needed a marker to actually get a sense of size. Today, devices have measuring ability of size and play. At that time, there was none of that. And we did a bunch of very interesting stuff to be able to convert users for very big ticket items like sofas purely on mobile, right? And that was a very key learning. Now, of course, as a founder, you don't just look at product and user experience. While I love to spend a lot of time on that, most of my late nights were all that. I would say you become far more focused on product and culture, right? How do you set product as a mindset across everyone in the company, as well as culture in terms of making sure that people are customer-centric, people are product-centric. A/B testing is something that we discovered very late in that urban ladder journey. I would say is if you can configure that from day one, you pretty much will replace yourself as a product person, right? And that's very important, right? Because you literally, an algorithm can run on all the A/B tests you want, and all the decisions you make, the algorithm can make, right? And that's going to happen. So I would say if you can configure that very early on, that's great. I think as a founder, obviously letting go of product was the toughest. When you hire your VP of product, it's a very different thing to let go of product, because you're not you have to be aware that first of all, there are better product people than you in the market. And two, you have to let go of your views on product. Of course, that was a tough journey as a founder, but I think it happened sometime around year 4 or so. I think I could do that, make that happen. That's my learnings from that experience on the, as a founder who's also looking at product, right? I think the summary of all this, if I were to, put it in one slide, I think it would be slide, right? As an associate or an analyst, right at the start, you're probably drafting use cases or making sense of a lot of metrics. The key there is not the quantum of metrics, but the quantum of insights, actionable insights for the product team, right? I think that's what you should focus on. If you're an individual contributor product manager, I think, even if you're doing a platform product or a backend product, I think an eye for user experience design is important. Alignment of folks, you start that skill right at that level. Don't wait for you to be a product director to have to do that, because you really are aligning a lot of people to build a great product. And I've given enough examples, right? Yahoo Cricket could have never been great if I didn't align everyone from business development to content management to marketing to provide the right traffic to all of it, right? That's why Yahoo Cricket became #1 in cricket. It bet Cricinfo in that 2009-2010 time period, right? As a team leader, product director, you are far more into evangelizing and managing people, and you're also somewhere setting the tone of product goals and measuring people and giving continuous feedback, right? Because if you don't translate your goal into your team's goals, you will never know whether you're moving ahead, right? And the last piece is, if you're a chief product officer or founder, you obviously are also becoming a visionary in the space in which you're creating the product. At the same time, you're also inculcating a product culture into the organization, right? And that becomes a very different mandate from when you're a product analyst. I am trying to get my last slide, which is sort of what I call a mix of evergreen skills. And I think I sign off here with one statement. Everyone as a PM wants to be the CEO. They see themselves as a CEO. They think that their neck is on the line. And don't take yourself too seriously is my input there. But I think the important PM skills, I think everyone in this who's a PM probably knows this at some level, which is prioritization, alignment with business, metrics and data, user research and experience, people alignment, and storytelling, right? This is not rocket science. I think everyone knows some avatar of this. But I would say in the next decade, if you're going to be building products, if you're going to go across the board from a product analyst to being a founder, I think these are skills which will become far more important. One, I think human psychology. I think every single great PM goes into the psyche of why a customer wants a particular product experience, whether that's an emotion of pride, that's an emotion of success, that's an emotion. What's the inner emotion that people are trying to solve? Which also essentially means, I think this decade, and it's already a trend in the Valley and more mature ecosystems, you're going to have far more fields rather than the standard background like my background, which is engineering MBA, to be great PMs, right? And today, 80-90% of the audience is still that, but you're going to get people from a variety of other backgrounds for sure. Two is, I think, designing for extremely new experiences, right? VR, I believe, is going to be huge in this decade. I thought it will be in the last 3-4 years. It's not to be, but I still think it will be in this decade. And designing for VR is a very different thing. Everything from user interaction to the, making sure that the experience is great to the conversion is very different. You would rather be the India's best PM on VR rather than one more PM on everything else. I think that's a fair bet to make. Third is something I already said. Don't be just too anally focused on metrics, right? Because if you're too anally focused on metrics, I don't think you can 0 to 1 products. 0 to 1 happens in a lot of gut and intuition. It happens in a lot of deep understanding. If we had to go by data, I don't think we would have sold furniture online. The market size was 0. So you have to take certain bold gut calls, and data is not going to be the be-all. And if you're just going to be analyzing data and making decisions, a machine can replace you some point in time. So I would say make sure that you have all the other right brain skills. Last but not the least, PMs can tend to get cocky, imagining they're the CEOs of the product and everyone else do. I think that's not the way to look at it. And that's just an unnecessary ego boost for a PM. Have the same humility that every other person has in the organization. I think that's pretty much it. And I would maybe end the conversation on my current, which is a very interesting different role. 2019, approximately March or June, around June is when I officially decided to do something more early stage. I think Thermal had become big then. It was being far more efficient and omni-channel. I wanted to get back to creation. And you would understand from my background why I love the process of creation. I took a year off almost between April 2019 to March 2020. Figure out what are all the things I want to do. But more importantly, I eliminated a lot of things. And I figured joy is really in the job of creation, working with super smart people to actually create, right? And thankfully, I started talking to Antler exactly a year back around the time the lockdown happened. Over the 3 months between March and June, figured, this could be a very interesting partner. I decided to partner with Antler instead of starting up, because Antler's job was to start up 100 companies. Why start one company when you can do 100 across different sectors? I love working with people. I love creating products, and my entire team here at Antler, it's not just me now. It's 4 more folks who are all absolutely fantastic people, far smarter than me in many aspects. I think the job of the 5 of us is to really at that super early stage help founders set great visions and build from India for the world, right? And I would say it's literally come a full circle. It's just that I don't code anymore. I don't product manage anymore, but I just work with much smarter folks, both in my team as well as on founders, to be able to create impact. And that's what we're looking for in Antler. And really, we started working with our first cohort last week of 20 amazing founders from around 2,000 applications. We're obviously super privileged to be working with such smart founders, and hopefully there'll be a bunch of announcements in May on our first invests. But yeah, this is the kickstarting a new decade, a new career, and hopefully we'll create magic. That's about me, and I'm really happy to answer questions to us.
Super. Thanks so much, Rajiv, and looking forward to those announcements in May. I'm sure you guys have a kick-ass cohort. And thanks for sharing. I think in a very, very concise manner, you've taken us through your journey. It's been a very, very interesting ride for you across different sectors, across different roles in itself, right? From across both sides of the table, big companies, small companies, starting up, now on the other side. So thanks for sharing that. I think lots and lots of questions. I'm not sure how many you'll be able to cover. So Adi, what I was deciding, we'll keep the question that we had decided to a bare minimum and try picking up as many from here. Let's keep it super interactive. I think Rajiv and me, when we had our first conversation, this is exactly what he wanted. So Rajiv, all of it coming your way, lots and lots of questions. I'll kick it off. Adi, I think one question that I had, Rajiv, is probably an extension of one of your slides. You mentioned the critical rules or critical, demarcations in where people are in their careers, and some important skill sets that are necessary at that stage, right? I'm just combining a couple of questions here. Say during your time at Yahoo or at Urban Ladder, right? If you were to make 3 kinds of hires, someone who's very early in their career, someone who's mid-stage in their career, say with 6-7 years of experience, and someone who you're making a late hire, right? A senior PM, 8-10 years of experience. You've shared the critical skill sets that they possess. But is there something that you'd like to add that is specific to each of these, right? When someone's trying to break in, yes, I prepare for these roles, but something more tactical, right? It could be like, hey, this is where you can look for, or anything that you've learned, right? Something from your experience that you'd like to share separately for these 3. Because I see like a couple of questions which are regarding hiring, how to break in. I'm just trying to combine that into one so that we could take the rest.
Sure. I think let me start with the later one, right? If I'm hiring a product leader, I think one, the sector, how deep is their consumer understanding, and what is their vision for the next 10 years, right? For example, I meant VR as an example. Now I have a particular view to how VR. Now I might be super wrong. It might bomb, but at least I have a particular point of view to how it should be, right? And how I would love to architect, and based on very deep consumer understanding, some level of metrics, some level of where the field is going. So I absolutely look for that in the product leader. 2 is I would certainly look for what is their philosophy to people. Okay, because if you're a product leader, what are the cases of product managers that you've grown their careers? Who would swear by you? Who will and give me an example of something which didn't work per plan, something which worked per plan, right? This is 2. 3rd is I would certainly test some level of understanding of other business functions. Because at that level, you're sort of directly working with the CEO. You need to understand how finance works. You need to understand how marketing works. You can't operate in a silo. So I would say that's the 3 for the product leader. For a mid, let's say senior PM level, right? Let's say that's sort of that level. I would go deeper into maybe pick up a user experience example of what they like or what they love and try and understand what and why they do that, right? In terms of what is it that they like about that. To this, I would take on a particular problem statement in terms of, let's say, a particular sector or a particular case, and ask them everything from product strategy to what their MVP would be. Okay, in terms of why this would be the MVP, or why this is the direction, or this is the customer that they would go after. A third one might be, what is it that they would look for in driving the maximum output from an engineering leader who is their counterpart. Okay, how would they interface with engineers, give all of this with some examples, right, from their past. So that's probably for a mid. For a starting product analyst, maybe a couple of years of experience, I would go deeper into problem solving, problem structuring, give a case, understand how they understand the thinking process of them. Two is certainly some level of either, there can be two kinds of people. One who's super strong analytically, one who's super strong in terms of the communication and articulation. Typically at that younger level, tough to expect both. If someone is both, that's a superstar, right? So I would pick which one and go deep into either a math problem or an analytics thing, give a lot of data and say, give me the actionable insights. If someone is more, let's say, outward oriented or customer research oriented, I would say go talk to 20 people who are this and tell me the insights. Okay, so that would be my second exercise. A third one would be to understand how they want to grow in their career. What is their ambition? Do they want to be a founder? Do they want to be a product leader? Do they want to become a business person? At that time, they probably are undergrads. You want to go to an MBA in 2 years. Tell me that. Absolutely fine. Tell me that. Right. So I think that's probably a third one I would use, just so that I can better align the role. I don't know if that answered your question, Suhas, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that gives a fair idea. Last bit is on, like, I think just to wrap up this entire section on hiring is, in case you're making early stage hires, did you make early stage hires at Urban Ladder, say APMs, junior PMs? And did you really look for like specific skill sets? Maybe did they have to really come up, MBA college, for example, right? Was there any like basic layer that you had to filter for?
See, the first hire we did, I think, as an APM, I think, was the first hire, because I used to manage a person who is the head of marketing and product, was also a PM at Yahoo working with me. Okay, so between the two of us, we covered product for a good while. So we, I think, hired the first PM or APM, I think PM, maybe 2014, 2 years into it, and he had an MBA from one of the top 10 B schools, not an IM, and he was also, I think, working in Snapdeal or one of these companies, right? So we see, the thing is, as a startup, it's very difficult to hire without some experience, because you have to sit with the person, right? And you don't have the time to sit with the person, right? As much as by intent you want to. So we hired someone who at least knew the basics of it, but had to learn, of course, the category we were going. And then after that, we got our PM. I mean, our second one was a big bet, right? He actually had never done a PM. He was fresh out of, he got a BCG offer from IM Bangalore. He turned out to be one of our best PMs. He was just a generalist, and he wanted to get into PM as a career path. By then, we had raised a bunch of money, and we could take some bigger bets. I think it was, again, 2015, maybe the third year of our life. And of course, this is 5-6 years back. So obviously things, I think, are very different today. You have a much bigger pool of PMs and stuff, but at least that's the way we operated at that time.
No, that's true, and that's an interesting insight, because that helps when people are looking to apply, right? What kind of company should they shortlist? Where they like it all sits in very well, right? It's very difficult for someone who's a junior without XYZ on a credential to break into, say, a FANG, right? That is something. So it's not going to help you go apply on a bunch of job boards, and it doesn't work out. It's just important to hear that from your perspective as well. Like, what do you look at?
So I tell you one thing I did, right? In terms of, so I wanted to, leave enterprise and get to, so I actually applied to Google in 2008. I didn't hope for an interview call. I made my resume the most interesting. I actually made my resume in the form of a Google front page. This was 2007, okay? I'm not saying that's the only idea, or that's that. 2007, Google in Switzerland called me for an interview. I didn't pass the interview. It was a very technical interview. I think by then I had become much less technical. But really, they called me because my resume was the most different resume they had seen in 5-10 years of Google. 2007 Google, right? Switzerland Google. And my point is, I think you have to stand out, right? Now, how do you stand out could be through a project, through some blog you write. Today, every 22, 23-year-old is out there on Twitter, and it's like there's so much competition. You better stand out because your competition is also higher. But there are multiple ways to stand out. It could be a podcast. It could be the interest you're showing in product. It could be maybe, as part of the application, you have a small critique of some feature of the founder's website or his or her website. Multiple innovative ways. I just gave an example just to showcase that I think innovation in your application.
100%. And this is probably something that we also wanted to hear. We had a question on this actually. What are some really interesting standard things that you suggest early stage folk? But you probably covered it. Adi, I'll hand it over to you to ask the next set.
Yeah, zooming out a bit, this was I think it covered a lot of questions. So zooming out a bit, what are some key learnings from the urban ladder journey? Like you mentioned, you didn't have any e-com experience. It was super early. Online furniture market was literally new, and then you went on to do some really good stuff and things like AR, VR, a lot of innovative stuff. So what were some big lessons from those set of years?
I would say, if I were to again summarize everything into 2-3 points, one, I think far more focus on the back end than the front end. I think we automated a bit later than when we should have, and some of those projects didn't work well. I would take personal responsibility for some of those mistakes, right? In terms of, I think we should have just automated far stronger, far better, far earlier. I would say that's something that a lot of companies miss in that whole. I mean, I was a front-end product manager, right? And it sort of goes back to my background. I was always working on front-end stuff. That's why I took a fancy to AR, VR, not the back-end, right? At least from a team perspective, we should have put a lot of energy there. I would say that's one learning. Two is, I think e-commerce conversion is a humongously complicated problem, right? When I say complicated, it's multiple variables, especially if you're a brand. And it's important to align strategy on one front. If you're trying to solve all at the same time, it doesn't work. You're trying to grow, you're also trying to make it efficient, you're also trying for customer satisfaction. It's like 3 different parts of the company are all going in 3 different directions. Everyone is pulling in every direction. It doesn't work. You have to be very clear on strategy. Everyone goes against on the same problem. You make sure that everything else doesn't break, but you go on one problem, try and maximize. Let's say it was about increasing revenue. Let every part of the team work on that. Let category make sure that product catalog increases. Let merchandising make all the changes to improve the quality of merchandising. Let us get more traffic during that time. I think aligning, Omlada was a huge organization, right? Speaking at 1,200 people, and aligning everyone to the similar goals, which are all, and executing fast, right? To make sure that you're showing results, you're experiments, but doing it faster. Experimentation as a culture, I would have done far faster. I think we did it in year 5 or year 6. I think I would have just done that before making bigger bets, right? Literally for any product feature, my simple heuristic nowadays is try it literally with a Google form. I mean, try it verbally, then try it with a Google form, then put an MVP which is not even a backend code, then put code, then build a platform. Like literally do it across 5 stages. Don't like immediately build a platform. It's just a humongous costs and effort, right? So, and you have no-code platforms and stuff today to do all this, right? I mean, that was not the case 5-6 years back. So these are the 2-3 learnings I would say at a very summary level. I can spend an entire day on this.
Of course.
Interesting. Adi, I'll jump right into the questions here because tons flowing in. It's been one of our most interactive sessions, so let's try covering as many. I think we have 12 minutes to go in this session. Rajiv, I'll combine 2 questions into one here. You worked across big tech and then from scratch, starting something of your own. How do you instill a product culture when, on that side of things, there is already something going, something big, something already set up, you're entering at a high level, how that on one end versus, on the other end, something that is starting from scratch, from day one, you instill, I'm sure Open Ladder, I think people loved it for the design. Outcomes different. I think that was something that people were talking about. So how did you do it in both these organizations? Was it a framework? Was it something similar across both, or did you have to really change or shuffle things?
It's actually a great question. Now that you've asked me as a question, very pointed, even I have to go and read up on this. But I think the bigger company, I think, comes back to the overall organization culture, because I think even as a leader in a big company, it becomes tough. I think as a senior PM in a big company, it's almost impossible. I think you just be anal about product. And when I say product, you just be anal about just the thinking, the user experience, the detail orientation. a button needs to be, in its right place, right? You sort of talk that same language that, so don't make it silos, right? Design is not just design. Engineers have to think design. Engineering is not just engineering. Design is also engineering, right? Imagine. So I think just aligning, because a product at the end of the day, unless it sees the light and is successful, is not a product. It is just in your mind, right? So a product culture in a big company, unless it is set right at the leadership, right, which is literally, at the CEO level, then translates to the India team level, and then translates to the head of product level, and sort of it has to cascade across the board in a big company. So I don't have a great answer, honestly. You just do your stuff painstakingly, just get into the details of everything, align everyone, make sure everyone feels. See, this is another thing, right? Make sure everyone feels heard, because product managers think that it's their idea versus everyone. That's not the case. It may not be your idea at all. You have to just do the best product where your customers love it, and none of your idea need to be there, right? So make sure that, I think, engineering feels heard. Make sure designers feel heard. Feel heard doesn't mean that everyone's idea gets implemented. Make sure customers feel heard. I think your job is to get the best metrics at the end of the day and align and tell a story. So I would say product culture. I mean, it's product culture at the end of the day. I think everyone feels product. Everyone understands why product decisions are made, and everyone is customer centric towards making those decisions and winning, right? So I think that's what I would do in a big company. In a smaller company, it's easier. And I say easier, it's not. It's relatively easier, right? You sort of set that as, like you said, what stands out in Urban Ladder is design. You make sure that every single interaction, you talk about design, whether that's an all hands, whether that's the orientation, whether that's an email from the founder, whether that's, a product study meet. You just talk design to make sure that everyone instills into their head that, something is out, I am going to be pulled up, right? To everyone instills the same, right? At the end of the day, what is product culture? Everyone thinks product, right? Which is everyone thinks scale. Everyone thinks not human service, not, everyone thinks automation. Everyone thinks technology, right? I think that's something, I think the second part, I think we could have done a far better job of, right? In Urban Ladder for sure. Because I think we let, as I said, on the back end side of things, we let too many go on for a while before automating them. And the last part is to make sure that you reward product thinking. I think align it to your appraisal, align it to your rewards and recognition. Make sure that you're calling out standout thinking on product, right? Whether that's an ideation competition, whether that's an innovation competition, whatever it is, right? I think that's the and maybe micro innovations on some Excel macro someone did to even automate some. Those kind of things I think you can do to instill that culture. But yeah, that's I think aligning it back to the values of the company is, I think, extremely important. We had, let's say, design, we never had as part of the values, but we had customer obsession. We had excellence in every small thing we do as a part of the first set of values for Urban Ladder, right? I think that was something that we would, do. And I missed one point which funnily came up as a question right now, to approach towards data-driven product management. I think the other part, product culture, is also to drive the construct of data. There's no seniority in the room. Only data is the senior, right? So if someone says data, whether that's an intern, whether that's a CEO, everyone talks data. Of course, you're always betting and making bigger bets where data is fully there. But I would say that's something that in every meeting, the first set of slides will always be data, right? In terms of whether customer data, market data, your own data from your internal, Google Analytics, your mobile data. I think that would be the first one before making any decisions. So everything had to be from data to decisions and initiatives, and not vice versa. So I think that was the way that we solved for that.
Fair. No, thanks for sharing that. Who owned this? Like when you mentioned, okay, Urban Ladder, I think was a little average game in terms of the design first culture. Do you think that's possible when the founder isn't so focused? Because there's so many things happening, right? When you're early stage, you just want to make things happen, and oftentimes we miss on the focus, right? And this is something that you invest in long term. Like SEO, for example, it's a long term. You don't see something overnight. You can over-index on performance marketing, right? That is just to draw parallels. So design is something that is something that a lot of Indian founders especially don't focus on from day one or day zero. Is that something that you consciously thought about or knew before coming into this, or
Yes.
how do you mentor early stage Antler founders today on especially for product managers, right? Because today management is no more that generalist. Everyone's trying to pick up one thing that they really want to specialize in. And we get a lot of questions around, hey, is design important for a product manager? What is your thought?
That's a great question. I think it started with me and Ashish. Both of us were super anal. He was very anal about the physical product. He would go into the next level detail on everything from the knob to the way the channels are designed. He was like so specific that actually he had no background in furniture. He became one of the biggest furniture experts in the whole of the country by 4 years. Everything from the wood to the grain to the quality and today's knowledge in just 8 years of Urban Ladder is far than someone worked in that industry for 20 years, right? And I think that's what he did on the physical side, and I did that on the digital product side. I would be like, this font, why this font, why this, literally to the font, serif versus sans serif. And I was not a designer, I was not a trained designer. I would go, okay, within railway versus something, this button, the size, why is this size? So I think being anal on a bunch of things was just inherent to why we did Urban Ladder. I never covered that. That was not the purpose of this session, but I think it was very inherent to why we did Urban Ladder compared to many other ideas at that time for us, right? We wanted to stand out on product, both physical and digital, right? We wanted to stand out on customer experience and NPS. And I think it has to be from the founder. You can't outsource this. You can't delegate. And I think that's a fantastic question, right? Because you can't really get that founder mindset into this outside of you being that super specific. And you would assess that in all the people. The way I do that, for example, even in Antler, that sort of translates the way I do, Antler also. 3 out of the 6 weeks, in the first 6 weeks, 1 week is design. We had a design workshop on Monday, right, from Akshay, from Prophecy. And we did a massive session on just design. Next week is just product and engineering. We're having 2 super strong folks on product and engineering, great folks in the startup ecosystem, address the founders and go next level. The week, so this is week 2 and week 3. Week 5, we have branding and, very specifically how to look at everything from design to logo to. And these are all important, but spending 3 weeks out of 6 weeks on just these 3 topics makes Antler focus very much on, product as foundation. Next 2 weeks, so I have office hours with all founders. And week 3 and week 4, my entire focus is I'm going to go into and give a critique on founders' first version MVP. Some of them are still building MVP. Some have just launched MVP in the last 3-4 months. And in 45 minutes and just go through their product. That's it. Nothing else. No gyan, nothing. Why is it this? Why is this? How do you measure? So I think it's important to sort of talk about that. Someone here has asked how to approach Antler. It's antler.co/India. So just go there and there is enough information there to approach Antler.
No, thanks for sharing that, Rajiv. And guys, in case you're looking, if you're building something early stage, Antler is like the perfect place for you to be. So do check that out. We'll share it in the chat section. If you're writing to Rajiv, we'll share his email ID or someone from his team. So you could put the product folks in the subject line so he knows you were at this session. And definitely reach out. Even if you're too early, someone from their team will definitely let you know. But do check it out. I think he's already added the link, or if we'll share that. But Adil will pick up the next question. I think we can.
Yeah, a lot of questions are around people from tech background moving to product management and people from non-tech background moving to product management. I think since you have had this journey, maybe that's why. So if you could shed some light upon both of these journeys, what could people in each of these categories do to sort of get into product management?
The non-tech backgrounds moving to product management is the tougher one right now in India because the maturity of the market, nothing else. You just have to stand out. I mean, the easiest way is to go get an MBA. It's unfortunately a painful part, but go get a B school, top tier B school is probably the fastest way. Both tech and non-tech, I think that's the fastest way. There are now, proxies for it. There is a whole new crop of education companies coming up who are sort of offering, everything from upgrad to STOA to, I don't know, there's a bunch of other stuff out there in terms of giving fast accelerated product courses and stuff. But having said all that, I don't have a great answer to this question, to be honest, right? Because it's just the maturity of the market, right, and availability of talent pool. There's just a lot of, because see, there's a good part about an engineering plus an MBA degree. Analytics is supposed to come default. Business understanding is supposed to be there. I would just say become a founder. That's probably become a founder, raise 1 or 2 rounds of funding, build something of worth, success or failure, and then 2-3 years later, if it's successful, you anyway never have to care about a product career. If it's not, then you become a product manager. So I think a very non-standard answer, but that's pretty much one way that I can think of. I don't have a great answer, honestly.
Non-standard is what we were looking for, so that's perfect. Not at all. I think how much time do we have? I think we just hit the dot. Rajiv?
Could we do 5 more minutes or?
We can do 5 more minutes.
Awesome. Adi, so we could take one question and then you do the rapid fire, if that's good.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll pick up one more. I'll pick up the most upvoted ones. If you guys can take 30 seconds to upvote some answers for us, that would be awesome. Okay. I'll pick up the one right on top right now. How important is selling a skill for a product manager? In your case, did you learn this formally, or is this something that you did on the go?
Wow. What about this? I actually. So there was this period where I was extremely, I was in Switzerland in 2007, right, and for a year. And I told you guys that I was super shit pained, and I wanted to come back to India, and I wanted to get into internet, and I didn't know how, right? I was obviously stuck in the enterprise world, and in the internet world, even in India, was pretty new at that time. And I knew, I had to come back to India. So I think I spent 3-4 months. I think it was easy for me to project my life because I'd always built products. As an engineer, I'd done an intranet. Even my Cognizant life, there was one part of it was where I was trying to build an industrial product, right? It's just that I never designed for consumer internet stuff. I think I just read, I remember the first conversation, not a podcast, but first audio interview, Marissa Mayer, on products, right? I think she was addressing, this was 2007, so I can't find the link. That really motivated me, and I think I saw 1 or 2 or 3 other things. I read a lot of blogs and just understood what this field was. Again, today it's very different. But this was 14 years back, and I just got super excited about that whole field of product management. And I actually formally never prepared outside of that. I just was lucky to get all of that grounding. That's the only way. So I didn't formally prepare. I didn't train. I didn't do all of that stuff. But I guess I always wanted to build product. That helped. There's a question here: how to track UX? I didn't talk much about it, but there is a metric called CES. I think people should read up about that. Customer effort score. How easy or how difficult is it for a customer to do a particular flow? I think a good CES means that your flow is super easy. A bad CES means your flow is not so easy. So I think that is one way to track UX. And the other way is, of course, qualitative brand impact. I think if you want to measure visual impact, I think there are ways to measure brand. I would say that's what you need to do on tracking UX. These are just 2 very simplistic answers, I thought, because I saw the question.
Perfect. No, thanks for taking that out. Adi, over to you for my favorite.
Yeah, thanks for answering all questions. We'll do a quick rapid fire round where we'll ask you something and you could just share your answers. And the first question is, what are 3 startups you are really excited about? This could be from Antler's cohort, otherwise in global, whatever. What are 3 interesting startups that you're looking at?
I unfortunately won't answer that right now. I can leave the stage, but I can't. It just is conflicting to my role, so I can't.
Maybe later stage.
I can't be. I just can't answer that unfortunately.
Okay, I'll flip that. So, if not for Antler, where would Rajiv be right now? What are some other?
I would be creating a new product. See, it was very simplistic. There are 3 fields that I'm super interested in life. One is the field of happiness. One is the field of careers and productivity. One is the field of founders and startups. I run a podcast on the first one, which is my hobby in the night. Last 9 months, I've not updated it, but I have my own theory on happiness. It's called One Life Theory, and I do that. Success, careers. The reason why I'm talking to you guys right now is because I have this. I write on LinkedIn, productivity, careers, all that stuff. I'm just personally passionate about that. I don't know if I'll ever build a product in space 1 and 2. Third is founders, and I said, okay, founders, let me take that up as my day job with Antler and really invest in products, and hopefully some of them get created in the field of happiness and careers also. And yeah, so I'm spending all my time across all of these three, living happily and at the same time understanding what happiness is. So I would say that's what I would have been doing, probably in a startup or understanding and researching people on one of these three areas.
Awesome. Next question is, who are three people you would like to give a shout out to? These maybe people who have had an impact in your career, maybe colleagues you enjoy working with, three people who you would like to give a shout out to.
Oh, Ashish, of course, my co-founder at Urban Ladder. Then trying to think, it's been 21 years, guys. So obviously, I don't there's enough and more people. My Karthikeya Mishra, who actually introduced me to Yahoo and referred me to Yahoo. Otherwise, I would have never jumped from Switzerland. He came later as he became my head of product in Urban Ladder for a while. Maybe Karthikeya. And third is Nandini, who was my first hire at Urban Ladder and became my first hire at Antler. So as you know her, so she basically was head of customer service at Urban Ladder and pretty much handles the entire program at Antler right now.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. The last question, what is one piece of advice you would give to a 20-year-old Rajiv?
I would actually be jealous of a 20-year-old. I don't have any advice. I would ask them to give me advice on how to live there is no advice. Like literally live life, try a lot of things. I don't think at 20 you should worry too much about success. I think just get into an industry that you like or you think you will like, and get into, I would say, to work with a person that you respect. Just try a lot of things. Don't maximize for money for sure. Don't maximize too much for success. I think success is important. If you keep failing, confidence is a problem. But really look at life as a lot of chunks of maybe 1.5 to 2 years, and just try a lot of different things, because you may be lucky, land the first thing that you do great, or you might take 10 iterations, but make sure you have time for 10 iterations. Because a lot of people don't land up with that even in 10 iterations. And just try, go abroad if you can, go try some other non-MBA, non-engineering stuff to study. I mean, I'm jealous of 20-year-olds, just there's so much, things that energy and less dependence and resources to do stuff today. And I hope to get to work with a lot of 20-year-olds with Antler. So that's my other very selfish reason. So yeah.
Awesome. I think all the 20-year-olds listening, you know where to apply. So
we have quite a few in the program actually, but yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Rajiv, for answering. I've also dropped Rajiv's podcast link. I loved listening to the first season. There are around 20 episodes, so go check that out.
And in case he gets a lot of listens today, he might just get inspired to probably do season 2. So definitely go check him out. I think Rajiv is also getting a lot more active on Twitter these days. LinkedIn is passe, that's what we say in TPF. So definitely go for him. We'll probably add a link to his Twitter profile in the chat section. We have just about 100 folks out here, so guys, do give do share your feedback on this session. I think lots and lots of things coming up from Rajiv's end as well. Do let us know how you like the session. Could tag Rajiv also on Twitter. You could tag TPF. Share your feedback. Do let us know who else. Rajiv's network is super strong. Do let us know who you think we could call for the next session. If you all want some specific topics covered, do let us know. What would be the best way for folks to get in touch with you? Twitter. Perfect. I think with that, Rajiv, thank you so much for your time today. We know that we ran a lower schedule, but it was super interactive. Thanks for those slides up front and taking up some really candid questions post that. Our audience loved it. 100 folks on a weekday. Still live. I think we were at 170 at some point. So we'll come back to you with some more feedback. I think people are already sharing some vote of thanks for you on the chat section. But
thanks for having me. As I said, hopefully some of these become the unicorn creators and unicorn more by impact rather than the valuation. But some of these become the future unicorn creators with Antler. But no, thanks for hosting me, guys. So absolutely love talking to you and recollecting some of my lost memories. But yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much, Rajiv. We'll catch you offline. And for everyone who stayed around, thank you so much for joining. Hope you enjoyed it. We don't do too many sessions on weekdays, so do let us know. I think this was phenomenal. If you have any feedback for us, we are always reachable. I think Adi and me are pretty active on Twitter as well. You could DM the Product Folks handle. I did a link on the chat section. It's to some upcoming events. This weekend is super packed, right? For founders, for product folks. For design folks, for analytics just got over last week, and so you could catch the highlights. We also have a teardown series coming up, so that is with Srivatsa, one of India's largest real estate portals. And the best part about teardown series is the winners get to interview directly. Some of them have already got placed as well, and our partners have been companies like Oyo, Dunzo, Grofers, etc. So do check that out. For later stage, I think we haven't done too much, and that's one feedback we got last time. We are planning something. Do stay tuned. For now, you could join in on the Slack channel. And in case you're really senior in your career, do DM us. We have a separate WhatsApp group. We have only 250. We have a limit of 250 on, so that's the only reason we're curating it. But if not, I think Slack has lots and lots of activity. I think there's an AMA tomorrow as well with a VC fellow explaining both sides of the table. We have the weekend is packed with Saturday, Sunday. We have founders from YC coming joining us for those sessions. We have one session with Charjbi, a senior director with 20 years of experience. He's coming to share on why you should not get into product management, or if that's one side of the table, but in your career. So do check that out. Apart from that, I did share a bunch of links upfront around all the other initiatives that we're doing. So yeah, thank you once again. We'll see you soon. Adi, anything you'd like to add?
No, you pretty much covered. Hope you guys enjoyed this session. If there's any feedback, like Suhas said, feel free to reach out to us, let us know, and we'll always look forward to improving things. I've also dropped two links of the upcoming events that Suhas spoke about. One is, of course, from Charjbi. We're coming with Charjbi for that session. The next one is where we are getting three YC founders, and we'll be chatting with them about their journey, how they think about building products, etc. So do check those events out. And thanks a lot for joining. Hope you guys had a great day today. Have a great rest of the week now. Bye. See you.